Alan Titchmarsh. Tomorrow marks 3 decades since her tragic death. Her name remains synonymous with high-class fashion. Her look has stood the test of time because it was all down to elegance, grace and poise. Perhaps it was all in the name, because I'm talking about Grace Kelly. Here to explain why she remains a style icon, please welcome Professor of Film Studies Stella Bruzzi, wedding dress designer Joyce Young and vintage fashion auctioneer Kerry Taylor. Stella, in a nutshell, how did she become an actress?
Well, she didn't have a kind of Cinderella story despite ending up as a princess. And she came from quite a wealthy family, born in Philadelphia, went to New York, was on Broadway briefly at the end of the 40s. But by 1951, she was in Hollywood. And she made her first big film, which was High Noon in 1952. Yeah. So she was fairly, you know, she made a fairly rapid rise. With
a very disapproving father, but one man who did seem to approve of her was Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, yes. I mean, whereas Jack Kelly thought that being an actress was one step above being a streetwalker, Hitchcock quite liked that. I mean, in the sense that what he really saw in Kelly and why he loved her so much was that she wasn't like what he referred to as the big, busty blonde. She was a more sophisticated blonde with a touch of elegance, as he put it, whose sex, as he also said, had to be discovered. And that's what he liked, was that she looked quite... she looked classy, she was quite aloof, and yet, underneath, there was a simmering sexuality, if you like.
She really was a fashion icon. We saw that the way she wore clothes was superb. And her style is still taken on today, 30 years after her death.
Well, she had this polished elegance. Less was more for her. She loved pastel colours, and she just had this innate sense of elegance. Her favourite designers were Hubert de Givenchy, great favourite of Audrey Hepburn's, Balenciaga, Yves Saint Laurent, but she also dressed. Her wedding dress was made by the MGM costume designer Helen Rose and Edith Head as well. So she wasn't, you know, a slave to Paris fashion to begin with. Although I think she migrated to Paris fairly soon after she became a princess.
It's the wedding dress also that astonished me, Joyce, because it was an incredible creation. Now, you make wedding dresses. There is clearly still a lot of call for the Grace Kelly-style wedding dress.
Yes, there is, and what designers couldn't be inspired by the most iconic wedding dress of all time? And it was just, she was stunning, the most beautiful, arguably the most beautiful woman in the world. I was certainly inspired by her style, her grace, as you say, I mean, perfectly named. And she's just so elegant, sophisticated, demure.
I think that's how it is. You know, you use the word classy. But what astonished me, you look at the lacy dress that was worn by Grace Kelly, put it alongside the dress worn by Catherine Middleton, now the Duchess of Cambridge. Look, they're hardly different, are they? And when we see it's now presumably the Catherine Middleton look, is it, Joyce, rather than the Grace Kelly look?
And, of course, this has inspired a whole revival in lace and in vintage. There's a huge vintage revival just now, as obviously you will well know.
Well, you're saying, Kerry...
A wonderful neckline.
I'll tell you what, though, $1,100 in 1954? That was a lot of... I was trying to do the calculation.
Probably 100,000 or something today. I mean, haute couture today is still extremely expensive.
Tens of thousands of pounds?
No, much more than that.
No?
Yes. I mean, for tens of thousands of pounds, you get a very simple suit.
I'm so grateful for my wife.
A fabulous ball gown like the one I brought here, you know, you'd be looking at £100,000 with that amount of work.
I can't speak. £100,000 for a dress like that?
For that quality. I mean, that dress is actually... it's in the Grace Kelly style. It's something that's coming up in my October 16th sale. But it's by the Ravis sisters, English, a copy of a Paris piece, something that you can imagine Grace wearing. And that's £200.
Gosh, she left us a legacy in the bag.
She did indeed. That bag was made by Hermès for decades before she came along. And it was called a sac à dépêche. a bag to go, and she started holding it in front of her bump when she was pregnant, because she conceived Princess Caroline on her honeymoon, in fact. And the press were always fascinated. And because she was always holding this very large bag in a strategic position, it became sort of synonymous with her. And so Hermès renamed the sac à dépêche the Kelly bag in 1959 in honour of her.
She had tremendous sex appeal, Stella. She also, and I'm trying to be delicate here, she was quite a lady who enjoyed herself in terms of sensual pleasures, one gathers.
Yes,
Did I put that politely?
Very, yes, she had quite a prodigious romantic appetite, let's say. I think...
You put it politely, too.
I think... and that came out, obviously, after her death. At the time, there were, you know, rumours going around, but there wasn't much was made explicit. Yes, I think people think that the only one of her male co-stars she didn't have an affair with was James Stewart.
James Stewart. I can believe that, and I want to believe that. Well, because he said, well, I don't know whether I can get quite over to you today, you know. But, Joyce, the thing is, this style of that Grace bequeathed to us, it is unfortunate she did bequeath it, it's going to stay, isn't it? And stay and stay and stay.
It transcends time. I think ask most designers who they're inspired by, who they're influenced by, be Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
And so much this 50s look. As I say, their style, their grace, their beauty transcends time. They're classic beauties. Yeah. And there was an allure about that time that you don't have now. That I don't know, and possibly because it's the past, we look back and maybe make it more romantic than it was at the time. But I'm certainly influenced by that time. And when I hear you talk about the prices of the couture dresses, ours are a complete snip.
You've all done your adverts.
Yes.
Well, whatever her private life was like, I certainly wouldn't say no to Grace Kelly. My thanks to Stella Bruzzi, Joyce Young and Kerry Taylor. Thank you very much.